Right, so the Nasser Hospital in southern Gaza, which is the largest still functioning medical facility in the whole of Gaza, is in the line of fire right now as Israel claim, as always, that Hamas are using the facility as a base of operations. Their broken record of an excuse to justify their bombing of civilian targets continues. We've been so saturated with the sheer scale of atrocity that I fear there's a certain amount of anaesthetizing to the scale of the devastation going on in Gaza still when we hear about it. And what I mean by that is that when October 7th came around, we started to see social media filled with videos and stories of hospitals and churches being hit. We were up in arms. We were incredulous. We were unbelieving that this was intentional by Israel. And yet here we are now. Gaza's healthcare system all but wiped out, medical aid being held up, being denied access to Gaza, accusations of Hamas stealing it even. Well, there's also being documented evidence of anesthetics being taken out of kits by Israelis so that operations are being conducted in Gaza without it. Amputations without anesthetic, sometimes on kids. Can you imagine that? And that's been intentionally engineered. And so now, when I talk of being anaesthetized ourselves to what is happening, we are no less shocked, but we're also no longer surprised by it. Surprise has turned to anger and disgust at the state of Israel and all of those supporting them. Of the fact the media is failing utterly in its reportage of this. And when it comes to Nasser Hospital, most of what we know right now that happened last night there is via an Instagram feed from a media commentator in the hospital, fully dressed in press livery as she was, reporting on the situation she's caught up in that she said on film she didn't expect to survive. That takes some guts. Right, so the Nasser Hospital in Khan Younis in the south of Gaza, where of course the Israeli government and the Israeli Defense Force have directed Gazan citizens to go when they pushed them out of the north, for their own safety, they said, before subsequently turning their attention on them anyway, militarily, because Hamas, that word less a description of Gazan resistance and more a symbol of Israeli excuses. And despite the atrocity committed by Hamas on October 7th, I have no problem describing the Hamas excuse of Israel as such, as an excuse, because their response to that day has been so blatantly disproportionate. Nasser Hospital is basically the last line of healthcare in the whole of Gaza now. If Israel want to rapidly increase the rate at which innocent Gazans suffer and die, then rendering Nasser inoperable would basically do it. It's against international law for Israel to do this, to target civilian infrastructure like hospitals. Yet it has gone on with impunity, now to the point there may not be a healthcare system left there. Overnight tanks have closed in on Nasser amidst massive airstrikes. As we've seen in the past, people gather at the hospitals to seek shelter from this, even though the hospital itself always seems to end up a target too. This, I reiterate, was supposed to be a safe area Israel directed the people of Gaza to go when they forcibly moved them. A war crime in itself, of course, from the north of Gaza. Now the war crime is compounded further with no safe places for the people of Gaza to go. It is another crime scene, and of course the US, the UK and the EU are all complicit because of their ongoing support for Netanyahu's genocidal insanity. But you don't have to take my word for what is happening in Nasser, because Palestinian filmmaker Bisan Owda is currently trapped in Nasser Hospital. There was a filmmaker, she's been reduced to having to use her mobile phone, as so many of us do just to make average videos, but hers is so much more important because hers is literally the information we're getting out of this area right now. It's all she's got anymore since her family's home and office and all of her equipment were bombed and destroyed as part of the IDF carpet bombing, laying waste to Gaza City in the north. In what she admitted might be her final film, as she was fully expecting not to survive the night, she said, "This is Bisan from Gaza. I'm still alive. I'm surviving after the day 3 after 100, but that might be the last day for the last night in Nasser Medical Complex, as the hospital is new to the invasion. The tanks are maybe 40 to 50 metres away from us. The soldiers as well. So the situation is really hard. The carpet bombing before this moment was just unbelievable. The bombings are really loud and so close to us. The situation is complicated. I'm trying to find any internet connection to tell you what is happening. What Nasser Medical Complex is now near to be invaded. It's the last functioning hospital. I'm trying to find any connection so I can tell you what is happening. The carpet bombing. The ambulances could not even reach the entries, or the people were killed and injured because of the carpet bombing in the area. The west and the south of a refugee camp, the people who are displaced inside the hospital, dozens of thousands are just moving randomly, cannot find any place to go. They tried to go to the schools around the hospital, or even to the refugee camp itself to find a safe place while the carpet bombings and the bombings continued and were ongoing during their evacuating. So it was and still is so dangerous for people, the medical staff, the ambulances. Many people also evacuated the hospital. That's so dangerous. This is the last functioning hospital in Gaza. That means that thousands of injuries are still now alone in the hospital. This place, people are alone in the hospital. They are besieged. We are besieged. I don't know if I can survive this or go anywhere. I'm just alone. Alone as thousands, alone as many in other hospitals were before. In Al-Shifa hospital and the Indonesian hospital. It's a war against hospitals, against children, against women, against people, disabilities and injuries. People are just dying. I'm now talking to you in a risky place, in a dangerous place, just watching everything and hearing everything by my ears and by my eyes to not tell you anything. It's not true. It's true. They are invading the hospital. I'm trying now to upload this, to leave the phone uploading this and just to get away from here. If I could get back to the phone and see if it's published, I will. If I couldn't, then this should be my last video. I'm still alive, but I don't know if I'm surviving this night. It's now 12:32 a.m, 17th of January 2024. Salam. At time of writing, we've no idea what has become of Bisan. Hopefully she will post again soon, or news will come out that she is safe. A more sinister reason for the targeting of Nasser Hospital has been postulated, though, than Israel's wolf cry of Hamas being the reason. And that is that a deal was recently brokered by Qatar and France to get medicine delivered to Gaza in exchange for Israeli hostages. It would hardly be in Hamas's interest to agree to such a deal and then, by their own presence, make the last functional hospital in Gaza a target. What use is medicine with nowhere to use it and nobody trained to administer it? But who would put it past Israel? We already know how little they value hostages with their Hannibal directives and their indiscriminate bombing and shooting, which has seen the IDF kill their own people being held hostage by Hamas. This morning, the Nasser Hospital is still standing, but a nearby cemetery has been destroyed and the IDF have allegedly stolen corpses from it. The claim they are making on this appears to be that they suspect the bodies to be those of Israeli hostages that have been killed by Hamas. I'd love to know how they could possibly know that in the dark when the cemetery got bombed as well, that they had exactly the right place to look for them. They got exactly the right bodies. But I wouldn't bet against them coming back shortly with an announcement that they were indeed Israeli hostages and they'd been murdered in some horrible manner by Hamas in order to justify further attacks and likely take Nasser Hospital out completely, which is next door. I just have zero faith in anything coming from Israeli sources. Too much of what they've said has been readily debunked. For heaven's sake, South Africa put together an 84-page court submission to the International Court of Justice, spelling all of this out. But that wasn't even the half of it, as testimonies from Israel's own people have completely shredded any integrity that the authorities might have been in possession of, as this video here will tell you, which you should definitely watch next, and I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Think of Bisan. Cheers, folks.